Great. Okay, welcome you all for the session. Okay. First of all, wish to thank the principal sir of DBIT, the management, Uma Shankar sir, and Geeta ma'am, Manjunath sir. Okay, for arranging the session to the on this COVID time. Okay, and thank you so much for all of your participants. Okay, and I was discussing Manjunath sir, the crowd was very huge, and they tried to filter as much as possible. Okay, I'll try to share my content within this 1 hour of time. Of course, true that even within this 1 hour, nothing can be done in data science. Okay, it's a ocean. As your principal said, the principals have said, okay, it's like we have a course for 4 years which is to run on data science and machine learning. But I try to give my best about the knowledge in 1 hour, whatever possible, in architecture and data science overview. Okay, so that we can have a knowledge on it. Okay, I'll just start the session. If in case if the network breaks, please don't worry, I'll be reconnecting back. Okay, and if you're facing any difficulties, just put a message in the chat box so that I can understand there's a problem. Any questions and queries for the last 5 to 10 minutes? I'll give a time for the people so that you can ask me questions. Okay, is it great? Can we start? Okay, thank you. So it's me, okay, co-founder and technical director for Vitrix Technologies. Okay, we are basically a data science company. Okay, and I don't waste time about describing about myself. Okay, just telling 2 words about our company and what we are. Okay, so we are actually a software development and tech company. Okay, basically we focus on software development with respect to AI and ML products. And we're a tech company because we give educational training for all over the globe. Okay, and we are focused on software development, corporate training, and specific focus on data science, AI, and ML techniques. Okay, and we have a team of corporate trainers. Okay, and we also have a product which is presently running all over the globe with 3 products on AI and 2 products on data science. Okay, and these are our expertise. We have machine learning, data science, and web development as our expertise. And our future products are Enlight. We are basically planning to release a product by name Enlight. This is an AI-based learning tool, okay, for pre-kids and also for the school education. And we have a ERP Spacegram, basically a product which is involved with AI and machine learning to it. Okay. Apart from this, we have a clients. We have more than 8 clients all over the globe. Okay, we are serving them on different AI analytics and business development projects. Okay, so this is all about our company. And coming to the sense, okay, to start with the session, okay, I just wanted to take a chance to explain you people what's the difference between data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Basically, people come to me and ask, like, okay, Vinay, okay, or we have data science, okay, then people say machine learning, few people will say data analyst, few people will say business analyst. Okay, what exactly is the difference? Okay, what's the difference usually they say that? Okay, I can just share a knowledge on this diagram. Okay, when you can see this diagram, analytics and data science. Okay, then comes deep learning, machine learning, AI. Mean to say on a whole, this data analysis, data science, machine learning, deep learning, everything we call together as an artificial intelligence. Okay, what we say as artificial intelligence is, okay, the part of it is involved with data analytics, part of it is to do data science, and part with the deep learning, and part of machine learning. Okay, so what the difference mean? The difference mean to say, if you're working with respect to product data gathering, data handling, data understanding, statistics, visualization, if that is your concern on working, then we say you are into data analyst and you're a data science engineer. Okay. Then what comes deep learning? Working on huge data sets, for example, a computer vision data, okay, for example, working with the video processing, working with a huge text analytics, working with huge images, okay. If that is your concern, then we can say working on a deep learning projects. Then what is machine learning? Working on mathematical modeling. For example, you have a training data set, you have a testing data set, you want to build some predictive model, you want to tell whether the person will pay loan, whether will not pay loan, who is male, who is female, those kind of predictions with respect to mathematical model behind it, then we go for machine learning. On a whole, to the high level, we have a last part which is called as AI. Okay, for example, we call it as artificial intelligence to say that it is making the job of human to be very simple. For example, okay, a security person is sitting somewhere, okay, and you want to observe like whether there is a theft or not. Okay, to do that, actually, a security person can view a tough crowd of like around 50 to 60 people at max, not more than that. But if I integrate camera, which is having an artificial intelligence model to it, you can automatically glance 1,000 people at once. Mean to say, it is reducing the task of human effort. That is what we say as artificial intelligence. To become an artificial intelligence engineer, the part of knowledge has to be there with analytics, the part of knowledge with deep learning, and machine learning, visualization, so and so and so. Okay, so we can say, and in industry, we don't expect that everyone will be called as artificial intelligence engineer. No. Okay, they can give their own names. I can't say that, okay, person working on data analyst can't be called as data science engineer. We don't, it's just a terminology is what we say. Okay, but on overall, anyone who is working on a data and doing some predictive models, making sure that he is reducing the human effort is called as a data scientist. As simple as that. Okay, so like usually people say, I want to become a data scientist. What to do? I'll answer that question for you people. Okay, so this is the major difference. If someone asks you, is that AI, deep learning, ML, artificial intelligence, same? You will say yes. Okay, it's all a single branch. It's all the same bucket. Okay, everything comes under a bucket called as artificial intelligence. Okay, whether you take deep learning or ML or data science, whatever, it comes under one bucket. Okay, the person is called as an artificial intelligence engineer, or he can be called as ML developer, or a deep learning engineer, or a data analyst, or a data science engineer for that matter. Okay, everything is on the same bucket. Okay, so don't mind. Ultimately, if you say I'm good at machine learning, of course you're a data scientist. If you say I'm good at artificial intelligence, good, you're a data scientist. Okay, so it depends. Again, it depends on the industry, what you're working on, the project, and what you're focusing on. Okay, great. So now, question comes like how to become a data science engineer. Okay, there's a basic question. Okay, why I'm taking this concern is I understand there's a, I understand. People, please mute your audios. Geeta ma'am, please mute your audios. Okay, thank you. So how to become a data science engineer is the basic. Why I'm trying to answer this question is, okay, the basic, please mute your audios. Oh, Geeta ma'am, we can hear your voice. Please mute your audios. I don't know. It might be Geeta. I'm not sure. Sorry if you're not. It's not you, but someone is. Okay. Thank you. So, how to become a data scientist? Because people come to me and ask, okay. So many people will say, learn Python program and become a data science engineer. Someone comes to say, okay, learn statistics, become data science engineer. Okay, how is it the flow? What is the flow to become a data science engineer? So that's what I try to answer in this slide. I understand many people already are experienced here who know something on data science. This slide is particularly for the freshers or someone who really want to understand what exactly data science is. Okay, so any one programming language for that matter. Either you can take R programming or you can take Python. If you say I know Java, then usually I won't support. Okay, I say okay, you know Java better than Python to it to become a data science engineer. So we say a programming language, either R or Python language will help you. Okay, then I say the packages Python programming language to basic extent, not to become a Python developer, to understand the programming in Python. Just learn Python to understand the programming in Python, not to become a Python developer. There's a difference where we call it as a Python developer and the Python required for data science. There's a lot of difference. So I say just learn Python to an extent of learning Python programming so that you can understand what is being written inside it. Okay, then we need to learn few packages in Python. We have related package in Python with respect to data science, where we say we have NumPy, we have Pandas, we have Seaborn, we have Matplotlib, we have so many packages. So after learning Python to some extent, we actually focuses you to learn with respect to packages in Python, so that you'll get a complete overview of how these packages are used in machine learning algorithms. Okay, what next? Next is data slicing, data understanding. Once when we say a data scientist or a data science engineer, it's all a task on you to work on the particular data set. So given a data set to you, you need to be very good in slicing the data, understanding the data, visualizing the data, give some valued information about the data. To do all these things, okay, what we say is learn Python, learn data science package related to Python, then come to data slicing, data understanding, data munging, data extraction, so on, so on, so on. Okay, so we are at third step now. Learn Python, learn R programming or Python, then come Python packages, then give the data slicing, data understanding using visualization. Okay, then comes part of handling the data. Mean to say here we can learn a part of SQL, because I don't say that everyone must learn SQL. No. Okay, SQL with data science is involved a very minute role. It's a very vital role which is involved with SQL knowledge of data science. Okay, I can say if we are really good at writing some joins, okay, try to extract the data using select command, update command. I think that would be more than sufficient for the people. If you really want, unless and until you don't want to become a big data engineer. Okay, this is a different concern again. Okay, but I can say yes, if you want to become a data science engineer, okay, learn a part of SQL, okay, so that you can understand how to extract the data and so on and so. What's the next step? Okay, if you're done with understanding the data with the Python packages, then data visualization. Okay, we have used packages for data visualization. Okay, given a data set to you, for example, let us take, I've given patient's data to you, and I tell you to predict, okay, whether the person is having whether the person will be facing a heart attack or not. Okay, try to undertake the data, understand the data, select the number of rows, select the number of columns. Okay, extract only the male data. Okay, give the visualization with respect to age group of 70 to 80. All these steps are prerequisite before coming to machine learning. Okay, because we say that a good machine learning engineer must be having the knowledge on handling the data and the knowledge on the domain expertise. Mean to say, you must understand what is there in your data, unless and until you can't work on the machine learning models. Great. Okay. So then we come to descriptive statistics. After learning visualization, we have a descriptive statistics. Okay. We have a lot of statistics terms. It's not my scope of agenda for today's session is not to discuss what are the statistics terminologies, but I'm just trying to tell you after data visualization, we do statistics on part of it. Then we come to inferential statistics. Then we come to exploratory data analysis. At this phase, we say that, okay, now I have understood all about your data. When a client give a data to you, you'll be doing all the steps in the backend and say, yes, boss, I understood what your data all about. I'm giving a report. I'm giving a report in terms of visualization, or it might be in any other tool or whatever. I have understood with your data using the Python programming. We do all these things and project to the team so that, okay, we understand, okay, this person can work on machine learning models now because he understood what is our data. Okay, he understand what are the features present. He understand what all the information is data telling about, which data are categorical, which data are continuous. All the information is present in our data. Okay, now this person can go ahead with machine learning analysis. Okay, this is the part of exploratory data analysis, final part of the first phase of data science. Okay, then we say after understanding the data, okay, we need to have a minute knowledge of business. Okay, so only we say that usually a very good domain experience. Okay, usually the managers in the organizations will be good in data science because they know how the industry works. For example, if you ask me to work for petroleum industry, I say I don't know because I've never worked for petroleum industry. If you ask me to work for banking and finance, yes, I can do it good because I know how the banking and finance works. If I know how the banking and finance work, I understood the data so that I can build some model because I know the industry also, I know the data also, I can do a lot of better things. Okay, so we say understanding the data all about, try to understand what is the business all about. Okay, once when you understand the business, okay, then we can say you are a data analyst and a business analyst. Okay, if you know these steps, then you can portray yourself telling it as yes, I know a data science, I mean data analysis, and I can work as a data analyst or a business analyst in my industry. Okay, and I'm telling with respect to Python. Okay, this can be done using Excel, this can be done using R. Okay, if you people use SAS, okay, any other programming for that matter. I'm not specific to programming, but what I say is these are the steps actually required to come to the phase of business or data analyst. Okay, and next comes the machine learning. Okay, what next? When you say yes, I know till this, okay, next step comes to your machine learning perspective. In machine learning perspective, I say we have three different models. I'll try to give an introduction about this. What is supervised, what is unsupervised, and what is regression, okay, and optimization. Mean to say that once when you are done with the data analysis, then you become a machine learning engineer. You start building a machine learning model. Before building the machine learning model, you decide with your team whether to apply supervised technique, unsupervised technique, or regression or optimization. What is the process? What exactly you need to attend? After you say that yes, I built the model, then we say optimize your code. Your efficiency, what you're getting is 80%. I'm not satisfied with the efficiency. Okay, try to do something more. Then you go to optimization. Once you're satisfied with the optimization, then deploy it. What are deployment techniques? What are different deployment techniques? We can deploy in Flask. I can try to tell at the end. Okay, so yes, after becoming a data analyst, then you can work to start working as a machine learning engineer. Okay, then what next? Okay, after becoming a machine learning engineer, okay, then I can say you can start your deep learning models. Okay, I've seen people who directly step into deep learning models because you're good at computer vision. Okay, you say I work for NLP, I work for neural network. Yes, of course, I say it's not impossible, but usually it's always agile technique. What we say, I mean, it's the same old technique where they say become a data analyst first, become a machine learning engineer. Well, learn machine learning engineer very well, learn statistics, learn mathematics behind it. Not to an extent of doing R&D. Okay, not understand becoming R&D or mathematics or R&D statistics. Just understand how the algorithm works. Okay, then you will understand, okay, what was the pain we are facing in machine learning? Our deep learning model can help us. Okay, so if you understand how to work on the machine learning models, then I say take a chance to go with the deep learning architectures. Okay, then comes NLP. Okay, together when you say you're working on deep learning and NLP models, I can say you're an artificial intelligence engineer. Okay, this is the overall flow when you want to become a good data science engineer. This is how we have to follow. If someone says directly, okay, start learning machine learning models, please don't do it. It has to be a same flow. You must, because I mean actually I didn't try to slice it further. If I given a chance, okay, if I had a time, I would have discussed with you like, okay, when it comes to data slicing, how it has to be sliced. Okay, with data handling, missing value handling, removing outliers, then doing hypothesis testing, how to go with hypothesis. Lot of steps are there here. You need to understand together, then you will understand, okay, if you're given a project, right from data, right from taking the data till the deployment, you need to be very thorough so that at least in 1 to 2 models. Okay, then you can say that, oh, given any data set, you know where to catch and where to start. Okay, so don't be hurry. If you really want to learn data science, please follow the steps. This is the process actually we follow. Okay, great. And okay, okay, what next? After learning this step, is there anything else to learn with respect to data science? Okay, any supportive technologies to learn? I say we can go with big data. Okay, it's not compulsion again. If you say I'm interested to go with data science technologies, if I want to learn anything else, I'm putting data science as of now. Okay, what next? Then I say go with big data techniques. Okay, apart from that, we can do visualization techniques like Tableau or Power BI. Okay, then you can learn version control. You can use Git or any other version control. We have n number of version controls. Try to learn that. Okay, then you can go with learning with AWS, so that deployment would be helpful for you. Okay, then we can go to Microsoft Excel. Okay, because most of the tasks what can be done in the Python can be done in Microsoft Excel also. Okay, but as a programmer, as an engineer, we always say for people to go with Python. Okay, but if you say okay, apart from what I told in previous slide, if you say what next you can learn for supporting technology, I can say these are the technologies to carry with. I can say big data, Power BI, version control, AWS, Microsoft Excel. These are the technologies to go with. Okay, this is all about the basic techniques what I say to learn a data science and machine learning. Okay, and there are like different tools in terms of, okay, in Python what to use. Okay, which IDE to use to. Okay, so what are the algorithms to use? That now comes to the part of learning machine learning. I mean, today's session is not supposed to announce us to do that. Okay, and basically now we step to data science project architecture. Okay, so before understanding data science architecture, we need to understand the pipeline. Okay, most of the people who think actually you are freshers to data science. Okay, freshers to the industry thinks, okay, data science is just giving the data, we take the data, we start working on it. Of course, yes, for the freshers, but there's a lot of things which is happening in the back end. You need to understand that. My focus in today's session is to make you people understand what is there in the back end of data science project. Okay, just taking the data, running some machine learning model, do training, do testing, deploy. No, that's not the only case. If that's the only case, and I don't think the industry will work like that. Okay, because they have different phases to handle with. We need to plan with the architecture, we need to plan with an overview, we need to understand how the flow works. I just try to make sure to make people understand how it is working. We have something called as CI/CD pipeline. Okay, we have CI/CD pipeline. People can please mute your audio. Okay, as someone has unmuted your audio, please mute it. Okay, a CI/CD pipeline implementation, which call it as continuous integration or continuous deployment, is the backbone of modern DevOps environment. Okay, what we call it as CI/CD pipeline, which is called as continuous integration, continuous deployment. What it means? What it means is, see, once when you're given a data set to you, for example, 1 year back, someone gave me a data set, assume an Amazon data set. Okay, and I start building a predictive model to it. Okay, just imagine the number of people who started using Amazon from past 1 year is more. The trend of the people got changed. Every day the people are getting changed. Assume I have a data set till the month of January. Okay, then I try to work on it. But what happened at the month of February? Yes, the business was very good. The month of March, the COVID started. Okay, then the data was different. If I use the same data, what was there in the month of December, January, February, to make my model to predict what would be the profit in Amazon for the month of March, the complete model would be wrong, because the data what they had given by building the model of the month of March was, but the month of December was different. Presently, the business is working a different way. So what to do? Every day we need to integrate the data. Every day we keep on make the model to learn, and every day we need to deploy the model and make sure, yes, there are the changes which is going on and the model is performing accordingly. Of course, right? Because what happens is I can't always make the model to fix and I say, okay, I build the model, okay, take it. It will be running for a lifetime. No way. No model will work like that. Okay, we must say that yes, if you have a data set with you, then take a data set with you, then keep on training the model. As soon as when you get a new data, integrate it, do continuous integration, do continuous deployment. Okay, so we call the terminology called as DevOps. Okay, we call an environment called a DevOps environment. Okay, every industry usually when they're working on the project, this DevOps is not specific to our data science project. It's specific. It is like generic for all the kind of projects. It might be your Java project, or it might be your SQL project, or a PHP, whatever it may be. Any big project which is working industry uses a DevOps environment. We have a DevOps engineers for that to actually maintain the CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so what this will do? It bridges the gap between the development and the operation teams. Mean to say that, okay, someone is working, okay, I have my friend who is working for SQL. Okay, he's working SQL and he's working with the banking data. Okay, and he's an SQL developer. He says that, okay, when I have changed the procedure, okay, the data what I'm getting now, a new column was added to my database, but whatever the predictive model you built previously is not taking this particular feature. You want to take a chance whether if you take this feature, your model efficiency might increase. I don't know. I have to give a try. Okay, then I want to take the complete environment and I want to reframe my model, take that new column, add everywhere to the data, to my machine learning model. I don't want to take this risk. Who will handle DevOps? Okay, so we say a CI/CD pipeline is followed in an industry to make sure that there is a touch, okay, there is a flow between our developers and the working team. Mean to say that the people are, I'm working for data science, okay, someone is working for big data, okay. I have to connect with data science to big data. Who will connect? DevOps. Okay, you need to understand, yes, there's a DevOps involved in every data science architecture pipeline. Okay, if DevOps is involved, what is DevOps? Okay, I told you DevOps is just a development environment. It is the IT mindset that encourages communication, collaboration, integration, automation among software developers and IT operations. Okay, that is, we have an involvement. Okay, we have a touch. Me to say that if some changes happen with respect to database, they must give an intimation telling it as, yes, Vinay, there's something has happened. Okay, then the DevOps people will try to connect. We try to connect. Okay, that change has happened. You don't worry. We try to connect with that change to a machine learning model. So the continuous integration, if you maintain this, what happens? If you maintain, what happens is the efficiency will always be retained till the end of the model. Okay, that is, it will be evergreen. It will be evergreen in terms of, so that if any changes to the data, don't worry, your DevOps is taking care of it. Okay, so we say DevOps is an IT mindset where every industry, if you say there's no DevOps team in an organization, I say I'll be scared working on the project, because if we make some changes tomorrow, I don't know what else can be affected on other technologies. Okay, I need someone who know DevOps so that he makes sure that everything is synced together, and we are, as a developers, as a data scientist, we are doing it good, so that we are nowhere worried about the architecture, we are nowhere worried about the other hardware requirements or other software requirements. My task is just to go with the data science and machine learning model building. Any changes, DevOps will take care of it. Okay, so what I want to tell you here is, okay, machine learning model is not just taking the data and deploy it on the cloud or deploying out of the model. We have a DevOps team actually integrating everything together. Okay, why do we need DevOps? A simple answer. If people are working with agile technique, okay, the customer asks for the particular software, okay, we develop a software and give it back to him. Okay, and what happens is, assume there is an organization, okay, let us say, like, a Benz company is looking for, okay, SBI, let us say SBI. SBA bank is actually looking for internet application. Okay, then we say that, okay, we are developing internet application. I'm looking for the database developer. Let the database developer complete his task. When he completes his task, I take the responsibility. Then I start working with respect to front end development. Okay, when the front end developer do the designing, then I tell to Java developer to do. Do you think SBA people wait for such a long time? No clients will wait for so long time. What we do? We use an agile technique. Hope you people are studying the software engineering subject as agile technique. Where continuous integration mean to say that once when you integrate, just go for the step, deploy it, make the product run online. Make some application, deploy it, make it run online. So we have some agile technique which is being maintained as a developer, as a software developer. So that when interaction is required between a developer and the tester, then we use agile technique. Similarly, when a developer and the tester are together and they don't want any infrastructures to be varied, or they don't want to have clashes with respect to infrastructure. For example, developer says, I'm using MySQL. Okay, tester says, okay, to test it, I'm using some other database tool. Okay, he says that I need to install some other software. If I install some other software, the whatever the port we are using might disturb me also. No, don't worry. DevOps team is there to solve that. So basically, you must understand every organization industry uses a DevOps technology to make sure there is no clashes with respect to the development, the testing, and the deployment team. Okay, great. This is a simple application. This is an example of CI/CD pipeline with respect to Azure Cloud. Okay, I'm taking an example of Azure Cloud. Okay, there are different ways of actually doing pipelines. Okay, so some people use Azure, some people use some they can use some Microsoft techniques. Okay, the different techniques what they can use. Okay, but what I say here is, okay, a sample CI/CD pipeline with respect to data science is what I'm trying to tell for you people. Okay, so now when I say app developer, okay, when I have an app developer actually develops a software, okay, using some IDE. It might be a Jupyter notebook, or it might be Java, or whatever it might be. Okay, then he try to deploy that to Azure. Okay, or GitHub repository. It can be any repository for that matter. Okay, he just deploy it there. Okay, then what happens is, after deployment, he takes the next step. Okay, he tries to integrate with the pipeline, with the Azure pipeline. So what is Azure pipeline? As I told you, it is a pipeline which integrates with the software engineers with respect to database, with respect to testing team, everything together. Okay, app developer use some IDE. Okay, code, place this code in. Yes, is any disturbance? Manjunath sir? Is it audible, Manjunath sir? People, is it audible? Any problem?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so now I can say, like, okay, I can take some Azure pipelines to it. Okay, so when I'm a software developer, I integrate with respect to Azure pipelines. Okay, then I say yes. Okay, the model is ready with the Azure environment. Okay, then comes the data scientist. What he will do is he will use his own ID with respect to Jupyter Notebook or different frameworks. Okay, then we try to connect with that Azure pipeline using Blob. Okay, we call it as Blob, which is binary large object. Okay, we try to connect with respect to Blob. It is Azure, Azure machine learning service. Okay, there are different services for that matter. Then we try to fetch the latest data and the latest model. Then we integrate that to Azure pipeline. Mean to say that this app developer using some development environment, whatever the changes he do, he will be integrating with Azure pipeline. As a data scientist, I do some work using Blob, I take the data and again I am connected to Azure pipeline. Okay, then what happens? We release it. Okay, we say build the model. After build the model, we release it. To release, we have something like Kubernetes. Okay, I don't have much time to share you something on Kubernetes, something on Docker and so and so things. Okay, because again, it's a different topic for that matter. I just want people to understand. Okay, we work on the same platform. We work on the same platform. It might be app developer, maybe data scientist or a database developer or maybe a front-end developer. We actually integrate with the CI/CD pipeline called as continuous integration and continuous deployment. CI means to say continuous integration, CD means to say continuous deployment. For that, Azure people are supporting, okay, there are different service providers for that massive. If you go to Microsoft, they're supporting it. If you go to Oracle, they're supporting it. Okay, different people are using different CI/CD pipelines, but you must make sure, yes, you are working on the same platform so that any changes with respect to the application, my data science model will not be affected. What is our concern? Okay, fine. So I just want to give an example. Application developer develops using a language in IDE. Okay, then deploys using Azure or GitHub. Okay, then integrate with respect to PIPD, CI/CD pipeline and commits it. Okay, then comes the data scientist. Data scientist will actually use binary large object and uses some big data techniques. Okay, then data scientist will commit to same Azure CI/CD pipeline. Then the deployment happens. So what we need to understand in the complete flow is this process makes sure both developers and data scientists are synced to common pipeline with continuous integration and continuous deployment. Okay, okay, so you must understand, because I know as a fresher, we need to really understand. Okay, just for learning a programming language really does not make sense now. Okay, or it might be, I'm not telling with respect to freshers. There are people in the industry who just say that, okay, I'm done with developing the software, I'm done with the coding, and I'm done with my task. Okay, that's not the case. Okay, we need to really understand what is running the backend so that you'll be really good to handle any project on your own. Okay, if I say I'm just a front-end developer, does not mean to say you're front-end developer, you're done. Okay, it's although it was there in 2012 and 2013, but the same now the things are very different. If you say you're a fresher, if you are really go to growing industry, then we expect you to know some techniques on this so that we understand. Okay, if the particular person is not there, whether this person is capable of handling the project or not. Okay, that's what we need to understand here. Okay, so on the whole, what CI/CD helps is it helps in the continuous deployment. Okay, visualization and deployment. So we have, and step 7 what I made is I want to continuously develop for any changes. It is a recursive step, so we have all the steps to taken care. I'll take this individual step or individual step one by one. Okay, first I'll come to step 1, data generation. Okay, I want you to understand data generation, generate the data, acquire the data, store the data, do analytics. Okay, then visualization, then deployment. These are the steps which has to be taken care. Generate, acquire, okay, acquisitive, data storage, analytics, visualize, then create a value for it, mean to say create some domain value for it, okay, then deploy it. Okay, so data one, like step 1 comes to data generation. Data generation in terms of we might think data what I'm getting is from SQL, okay, from CSV. Actually, no. Okay, we will get data from sensors. We have something called telemetrics data. Okay, sensors in terms of when I can put some sensor in the car. Okay, automatically, okay, when you can say the Tesla cars. Okay, Tesla cars, what happens is I'll be putting some sensors to it. I know at what speed a car is actually going. So automatically it gives a message to the machine learning model. It says this fellow is traveling in 120 kilometer per hour speed. Okay, what happens if you go speed more than this? Might be your engine might go wrong. This kind of predictions has to be given to the driver. Okay, so we need to continuously acquire the data from sensors. We take some web logs. Okay, we get a sensor data is output of data, like what exactly sensor data is? IoT machines for that matter. Okay, a data taken from IoT machines, data taken from sensor is the sensor data. Then I come to weblog data. A typical example for weblog data is how many times which page has been repeated, how many times which page has been viewed. All this comes to weblog data. All these are data for data science. You can't do anything because I don't know where can I create a value for my model. I can create a value for my model from social media or from sensor. Everything is important to me because if I'm working, if my company is working for digital marketing, I can apply data science technique for digital marketing. Then I require social media data. I also require weblog data. Okay. Also require some sensor data because I want to know at what time actually is wearing that Apple Watch, at what time is not wearing the Apple Watch, so that I can do some digital marketing based on that. So none of the data can be compromised. All the data are important here. Okay, social media files, you know very well, we can use Twitter data, Facebook data. Cloud data is we have the MongoDB couch data, we have the data integrated to the cloud. Okay, then we have RDBMS, you know that very well, MS SQL, MySQL, Oracle DB. Then we have Microsoft Office using CSV, XLS. Okay, then we have web services like JSON and XML. Okay, mean to say you must understand when we working on a data science model, it's not that we are taking the data with respect to SQL. No, the data can be taken with respect to sensors or weblogs or social media or cloud or RDBMS. We have different ways of handling this. Given a data set to you, you need to understand how to take that data from the sensor, how to take from weblogs. I hope you people know something about web scraping. Okay, when I say web scraping, there's some information present in a website. I have to take that information. Okay, so how to do some web scraping? There's some information on social media. Your APIs, connect to API, take information on social media, collect the data, start working on it. Mean to say that the first step is data generation. Okay, next step comes data acquisition. I'm taking the example of banking domain for this example. Okay, I did data acquisition. Data acquisition is just like converting the resulting sample to digital numeric numbers. Okay, for example, I say, okay, a person is actually withdrawing amount in ATM. Okay, person withdrawing an amount in ATM. So what happens when we withdraw amount in ATM? Automatically something has to be affected with its original database. Assume I have an account in Kotak Mahindra. Okay, and actually I'm trying using an SBI ATM. Okay, so it would be in terms of network signals where I'm using my daily debit card in SBI bank. Suddenly server goes down, so it has to be integrated. It has to be intimated to my Kotak Mahindra. I think it has while he's using ATM something went wrong. Yes. So data acquisition is terms of converting the signals, converting the data in terms of signals, or converting data in terms of non-readable format to readable format, or converting in terms of numerical values. Okay, this comes to data acquisition. So when I say actual data acquisition, these are the examples. It can be to network file system, it can be to object-oriented DB, it can be to graph DB, anything for that matter. Everything together, okay, we try to convert it to relational RDBMS so that our processing can be done easily. Who will do this? Here comes your big data engineers. Okay, this is what we need to understand. Okay, why we say big data and machine learning, this is the reason. If you don't have the data, we don't have machine learning. Who will give the data? Your big data engineers. How will they do that? Okay, they try to extract the data. How would they extract? In different ways of doing it. Okay, so big data engineers are the responsible people who actually try to integrate with the data from different sources, and they say, yes, boss, take your data is something like this. Then as a data scientist, your responsibility would be, okay, I got a connection to my data, then I start working to it. So I say that big data and machine learning will come hand to hand. It's making sense, correct? Okay, now I say that, okay, all this data will be converted to relational DB using different tools and big data technologies. As I told you, okay, this will be converted to RDBMS using some big data technologies, because as a data scientist, I'm good at handling the data, but I don't know how to acquire the data. I don't know how to catch the data. If you give me the data, I can start working. If that is the case, then the big data engineers has to be there in the backend. They have to process it and they have to give it to you. Okay, assume the data is directly given to SQL. No worries, I can write a simple Python code, connect to SQL, start working. If data is given in CSV, no matter, just import the CSV, start working. Assume, but the data is given something with respect to big data technology. Okay, for example, it is there with respect to a sensor telemetric data. There is a camera is collecting the information of the person is actually walking. Then I don't know how to take the data, data with respect to convert the data to my processing format. Then what has to be done? There's a lot of techniques. We require some computer vision engineers, there comes some big data engineers, they have to process it. Then they say, yes, your data is some structure format. Then you start applying some deep learning model to it. Okay, the neural network, convolutional neural network, or RNN, whatever it is. Okay, for that you can start working on it. Great. Step 3 comes to data storage. Okay, so when I say data storage, okay, data storage in terms of data can be stored with respect to parallel computing, okay, parallel processing. It has been with respect to web crawl processing. Data can be stored in any format. Usually, what we say data processing is, we call it as data lake. Okay, this is very important. Most of the time, you people will not be knowing. You people would have been heard of data warehouse. Okay, what is data warehouse? n number of databases will be collected together, kept at one place called as data warehouse. For example, what? For example, customer data, one database. Employee data, one more database. Okay, and they can say something with respect to other banks' data, one more database. All those databases collected together, there will be one place called as data warehouse. This is what is happening till now. Agree. But now what happens? All those were structured data. I agree. But now data what I'm getting will be with respect to images, with respect to natural language. Okay, with respect to text, with respect to videos. Then how can I store my data and how can I start processing? So it would be difficult. So we have to do something called as data lake. Okay, there's a technology, there's an engineers who work on data lake. Okay, you need to understand this. There are engineers who work on data lake. They prepare a data lake. They prepare a data lake so that all the models, irrespective of the structure or unstructured, okay, it may be SQL or no SQL, or it may be semi-structured or whatever it may be, they'll push everything together and they will let you an opportunity to start working on the data. Okay, so once when you have a data to use, you can't think the data is there in the database. It will be in data lake. You must somehow try to use some tools. There are n number of tools to extract data from data lake. You must have some tools so that the tools will connect to data lake. You take the data and start working. Okay, this is what actually happens with respect to industry. Okay, I say that, okay, in banking and finance, for example, a person uploads a video. Okay, I say that I need to understand whether, okay, whether your car is actually present. I want to make some insurance. I can say upload some picture of your car. Okay, that is a different format again. I can say I want to know which tower, which particular ATM is actually going off, where the network is actually slow, where the network is fast. There's a different database again. It might be it's not structured. This in terms of signals. We need to say different data actually kept in one place called as data lake. If you ask me, hey Vinay, as a data science engineer, I must be worried about it. No, but it's actually good to know that a data science application works like this. Okay, I don't say you want to become a data science engineer. All things are required. We don't expect you people to learn data lake. We don't expect you people to learn something with respect to extracting data from big data engineers. No. But I say if you know this, it's really good, because if you understand the architecture, only then you can make your project good, right? Okay. So I'm trying to make you people, this is what happens with respect to architecture. Okay, great. Okay. I can look into data lake later. I'll just give an example for how data lakes actually look. Okay, we have something called as master data management. Okay, we can look into it later because I don't have much time to do all those things as of now. We have something like MDM, we have master data management, where all the data will be kept in one place. Okay, and the data would be in SQL format, NoSQL format, or it might be in MapReduce format. Whatever might be, everything would present is data lake. As a data science engineer, I connect it to a data lake and I start working on it. Where what is data lake is just like how we had data warehouse before, but data lakes provide much more functionality than compared to data lakes what was there previously. Data warehouse, what was there previously? Data warehouse is like, it is limited to this functionality. It says, yes, you have to be structured or semi-structured data to start working. But data lake says, it can be any format, I can make you people to start work on my data. This is how data lakes is actually designed. So we say a big industry always keeps the data in data lake so that processing will become easy. Great. Okay. So in this phase, a data science machine learning engineer, data analyst plays a role. Mean to say what? We done with data capturing, we done with data requisition. Okay, we have collected the data, we know data lake is present. If everything is done till now, then comes your machine learning engineer. Here comes your data analyst role, or data scientist role, or machine learning role. Here we actually our process will start here. Okay, this is called a step 4, as we know. Then here it comes something with respect to classifications of machine learning, where we have supervised machine learning, where you have unsupervised machine learning, we have deep learning. Okay, then we have natural language processing. We have so many concepts inside. Okay, depending upon the data, understanding the data, how the data works, what are the features and what are the outputs, whether data is categorical, whether data is continuous. Okay, whether data we have to predict the age, or we have to predict the person is a male or a female, and we want to predict whether the person is sleeping or sitting, or is the theft happening. Depending upon what the output you are expecting, you need to decide what the model is. On the whole, we say classifications of machine learning is of 3 types: supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning, and reinforcement learning. There are 3 techniques of machine learning. Usually I create this slide everywhere to explain. I can just give an example of what I prepared with respect to supervised machine learning technique. If you ask me, okay, Vinay, what is supervised then? Okay, now I hope you people understand, okay, collecting the data is one part. Okay, which algorithm to apply? Whether to apply supervised, whether to apply unsupervised, whether to apply deep learning. We don't know. If that is your concern, then I say something like this. There's a machine learning model to you. Okay, there's a training model, there's an apple. Okay, just take this apple and ask my machine to learn. Machine says, yes, boss, I'm learning. He says, yes, boss, I'm learning. I know it is an apple, I'm teaching it is an apple. I says yes. It says machine says yes, boss. You told me it's an apple. I'm learning apple. I take one more apple. That was green in color. This is red in color. I take one more apple. I push it to my machine. Machine says yes, boss. I'm learning. Go ahead. Take one more apple. Okay, push. It says I'm learning. Take one more apple. Push. Means there are different features. What are the features? The color, the diameter, the taste, the cost. Okay, the weight. All these are the features of the apple. I'm taking different features of different apple and trying to push to my machine learning model. Model says, yes, these are different features I'm trying to learn. Great. Okay. Now machine says I learned. It says, yes, boss, I learned. Now I learned. I know what is machine. What is apple now? Now the question is training is done. The training phase. After that is a testing phase. Okay. What I do now is I take to my model in the testing phase. I say, boss, what is this? If you ask me machine, what is this? It will say it is an apple. Makes sense. Because you already thought, you know the output, you told this is an apple, and you told the machine to learn, machine learned, so it is telling it is an apple. Great. Now I ask one more question. I ask, boss, what is this? Okay, what machine will say? Do you think it will say it's an orange? No. It says, I don't know. It's not an apple. You taught me what is apple, I learned. You didn't teach me, I didn't learn. Mean to say, this concept of machine learning is called as supervised machine learning technique. Okay, supervise in terms of you're supervising with the input and supervising with the output. This is called as supervised machine learning technique. You already know the input, you already know the output, use some algorithms. Okay, and I'm not concerned, I'm not telling how did I come to the feature. I didn't tell about the feature selection, I didn't tell about the data cleaning. I mean, that is not my concern as of now, because I hope you understand. Okay, it's again a big ocean to do. But I can say, yes, the machine learning process says you have an input, you have an output, then you want your machine learning model to learn, then go ahead for supervised machine learning technique. Great. Okay, then what is unsupervised machine learning technique? Okay, here the machine says, do not teach me, I will decide, analyze myself, because you only don't know what is an output. For example, you are on a crowd, you have a camera, the camera is actually capturing the images of the people, but in the camera doesn't know who is male, who is female. It must try to analyze who is male, who is female, based on the hair length, based on the walking style, based on the skin tone, based on the height, based on the weight. If that is your concern, then you only don't know, you can't tell the machine what is an output. That comes to unsupervised machine learning technique. Example, I'll show an example. This is a mango. I don't know it's a mango. I just say, boss, I have 4 fruits with me. I'm just pushing to you. You must only analyze and tell me which fruit is what. Okay. I'm just pushing the fruits. I'm pushing different fruits. Machine says, just go on, keep on teaching. I'll try to learn. Okay. I'm giving different fruits. Okay. Now finally there comes a phase where machine says, I have clustered and I can help you. It says, I have clustered. It never says I learned. It says, boss, you don't know. I tried to do something. See to it if it can help you. That is called as clustering, which is called as unsupervised machine learning technique. If you ask me, then how would be the output? The output would be something like this. Machine says, according to me in your data, there are 4 combinations. Yes, there were 4 combinations. Okay. Then I told, how did you know? I named it as cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, cluster 4. How did you do so? I did something like this. Okay, you had given me 2 features. You had given me the diameter, you gave me the length. Okay, the diameter was more. Okay, and the length was more. I thought it is papaya. I don't know if it is papaya or not. Those comes one fruit. This is somewhere here, cluster number 4. Cluster number 1, diameter is also less, radius is also less. Then it comes to apple. Banana, diameter is actually less, but the length is more. Banana. So mean to say it is try to assign accordingly with respect to 2 features. But you didn't tell the machine. This part comes to unsupervised machine learning technique. Great. Then what next? This comes to your reinforcement learning by experience. This is where actually a deep learning concept works with. Okay, make some mistake. It's a mistake. Come back, learn. For example, this is a self-driving car. A self-driving car comes and hits the granny. The granny falls down because the car didn't know when someone comes in front of you, we need to stop. Okay, then I say again the grandpa will come to the street. Okay, car comes and hits the grandpa. It will stop. It became alert because previously when it made a mistake, you tried to teach it. No. This is called as reinforcement learning, the part of your deep learning, which is convolution neural network, artificial neural network, recurrent neural network. This comes to the agenda where make a mistake, do something, learn back, go again. Make a mistake, do something. This concept is called as deep learning or part of reinforcement learning. The last part, what we have is called as a forecasting models. Okay, we have a profit in from the year 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16. Then expect was a profit in the year 2017. It says bring some forecasting model, which we call it as time series analysis. Then it says this is the profit. This is one more actually a branch of machine learning, which we call as time series forecasting. Okay, so on a whole, I just want to make it a clear picture with a simple slide because I don't have much time to do. I say these are the steps. These are the steps to take care of a machine learning model. We say collect the data, pre-process the data. We are collecting the data, pre-process the data, then do the sample. split the data to training and the testing. Okay, then do pre-processing in terms of tell which column is important, which is not important. For example, date of birth is also there, age is also there. Date of birth is giving the same information. Why do I require age? Or else age is giving the date of birth does not require because I already have, I already have age. So don't give two columns. So all this is done by feature selection. Then you do feature scaling. For example, the values will be in the range of 1 to 10 crore. I don't want to be such a huge value. I have to transform it to the value of 0 to 1 range. Do feature scaling. Then we do dimension reduction. Again, we have so much algorithms to do that. But what I say is, we have a data collection, pre-process it, sample it to training and testing, then again pre-process it, give it to the machine learning model. If you're satisfied with the output, directly deploy it. If you're not satisfied, do hyperparameter tuning, then check with your testing data, whatever the clients give. If data is up to the mark, then you can deploy it. If you're not up to the mark, go back and pre-process it, or go back and do feature selection, or go back and do some hyperparameter tuning, so that unless and until you're good, you're satisfied with the performance, keep on doing this methodology with different algorithms, with different data is what we actually start to do with. There's a concept called as cross-validation. Here's a different scenario. Don't want to take that as of now. Okay. But actually the process is done with the data, collected the data, take the data set, sample the data, split into training and testing, pre-process it, select the model, train with the model, do hyperparameter tuning, try to improve efficiency of the model, satisfied with it, deploy it. If not satisfied, go ahead. Okay. Go back to pre-processing, retrain it, come back and do it. This is a process actually we share with respect to a data science and a machine learning model. Okay, so again, if I say what are the classifications of machine learning, supervised and unsupervised? In supervised, we have two. We have classification and regression, and we have unsupervised called as clustering. Okay, in the classification algorithms, there are so much. In regression, okay, I'll tell you this is a simple example of classification regression. If you're predicting with respect to male or a female, pass or fail, it will rain or not rain, whether to play game or not to play game. Okay, in this case, you must go for classification. If you say, I want to predict the salary of the person, I want to predict the age of the person, I want to predict, okay, what would be the temperature, the continuous values what you have, those comes to regression. Then comes unsupervised technique. Okay, as I told you, where I don't know the output, I want the machine to make the group of male and the group of female. That is called as clustering. On overall, the base high level of machine learning is classified as supervised technique and unsupervised technique. And the process which is involved in the data sciences, right from data collection to deployment. Okay, right from data collection to deployment. So the step 5 is visualization. Okay, I have done with the model, I am fine with it, I want to give some report. Then what to do? We can use Power BI, we can use Tableau, we can use a Node.js. We have different technologies for it. You can put your model onto Tableau using some Python to Tableau connectivity, or else if you say I have a front-end developer, you can design a beautiful design for me. Say convert your model to some API. Okay, then give it to the front-end developer. He will integrate to the front-end development, then deploy using the techniques called as deployment techniques. It might be something with respect to Flask or AWS or Heroku. I made some mistake in Heroku spelling, that's okay. Okay, Flask, AWS and Heroku. Mean to say the process of data science work right from data collection to deployment like this. There are a lot of technologies behind it. If you say, I want to become a data scientist or a data science engineer, start from assuming the data is with you. You must understand how to catch the NoSQL data, how to catch the unSQL data, and start working on it. Okay, you must start right from data processing till deployment. This is a complete flow of how exactly a data science project would work. Okay, so with this, I think we already up with the time. I took such a long time. Okay, and I wanted to thank you people for using this. And of course, I'm actually doing the community work where I'm subscribing uploading my videos in YouTube also. We can just go to YouTube and subscribe my channel. We can just type Wheatrix Technologies. Okay, you can just subscribe with my channel so that you'll understand. I'll be posting few webinars, and whenever there's a new sessions I'll be taking, you can just join the sessions so that I can help you with your doubts and clarifications. Okay, and I will also help you people to. I'll try to correct this thing and try to forward this PPT to you. Don't worry. Okay, and you can just subscribe with the YouTube channel. I'll also send you the mail ID to the concerned people or organize this webinar. Might be Manjunath sir. I'll contact him and I'll do it. Okay. So now the chance for you people. I'm there to answer your questions. Please go ahead if any questions.
Vinay sir,
Yes,
thank you very much. It was very informative session. If you permit, can we take some questions from the participants? Vinay sir,
ma'am, your voice is not audible.
Can we take some questions from the participants?
Before she connects, Any questions from you people? You can ping me, like you can ping me to the questions. Thank you, AK. Thank you for your comment. Thank you, Ashwini. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yes, ma'am, go ahead, ma'am.
If any participant has any questions, you can unmute your speaker and then ask for the question.
Manjana sir, if you there, you can just go ahead. Alright guys, you have a question? Well, I think there's network problem with ma'am system.
Hello.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Sir, I have a doubt regarding, sir, can I get into collab access for free? Because I'm working on data processing and image processing.
Okay.
So the thing is that to work with the deep learning framework, I require some collab framework.
Yes, sir. We actually have a tool by name Google Colab. Okay, so it's for free. Okay, it's for free. It gives you nearly around 16 GB inside, I'm not sure. Okay, somewhere around 16 GB, so that you can just upload your documentation to Google Colab and you can start using the GPU machines provided by Google Colab. Okay, so Google is actually doing this for free because rather than people investing on the GPU machines, you can upload your data to Google Drive. Okay, and you can mount your whatever the data is there, you can start working on Google Colab. So that you can, rather than working on the GPU machines directly, Google Colab is help you doing it. Okay, we have much more stuff around Google Colab, but Google Colab is really good.
Sir, is there any alternatives just like Google Colab to run speed up my execution process?
So actually, there are a number of things. Okay, we have a Google Colab and AWS is also providing free services now. Okay, AWS providing free services. Okay, we have a number of service providers. We are giving it for free for some not to limited things. Okay, but what happens is there are few service providers. They will ask for your credit card details. Okay, so I think Google Colab will actually hold good for you people, okay, because it does not require, it does not ask you for any of the information further except your Gmail ID. Okay, but it performs the same. It performs the same like how other tools are provided. Yes, sir.
Sir, I have another query that it only provides 15 GB of space for email, but my data set is more than 100 GB or 200 GB. So it creates a problem for me to upload the data set to the Google Colab. That's the major problem which I'm facing. Can you please tell me the reason for that?
Sure, sir. Actually, if you want, I can share you the documentation of other tool, okay, which is actually cheaper than Google Colab. Okay, I can share you the documentation. Please share your mail ID with Manjunath, sir. I'll take your mail ID and I'll send you the document. You can do that. Okay?
Okay,
sir. I'll be helping you
in the chat, sir.
Sure. You can do that. You can not a matter. Okay, but you can use Google Colab also. Google is actually giving the price version also, where if you give some price, it will actually helping you to share it more than 300 GB, 400 GB also. But we have some other tools which is cheaper than Google Colab. I can share you the document. I'll do that.
That's a great help from you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Harish Naik asking about data analysis. Harish, actually EDA is the closest what you take with respect to a data science problem. For example, given a data set to you, I need to understand, what is the quantity, like how many number of males are there, how many number of females are there, okay, then how many number of heart attacks, how many people have faced heart attack, how many people not facing heart attack, okay, then I want to understand, for example, the salary range. What is the average salary range? Okay, is there any outlier in the data? For example, the few people may be getting only 5,000 salary. Most of people are getting from 30,000 to 80,000 salary. So if you want to handle these cases and you want to understand how the data is all about, then you need to go to exploratory data analysis, which we call it as an EDA. Okay, it's all about EDA. Okay, so we have much to, okay, there's a different, again, EDA is a different topic. Okay, but we say yes. Okay, EDA is used to understand all about your data. Yes. Any other questions? Wait, I can see someone asking the question. Okay, because due to time constraint, you can just ask me, you can just pop with your audio so that I can understand. If any doubts and concerns, please unmute your audio and ask the question. Okay, Balamurugan asked, sir, have water quality parameter data, tactile model integration. to find the relationship between what I see. Balmurugan, actually you can go with EDA first. Okay, you can go with the correlation plots. Okay, you can go with the correlation plots and the other heat maps and other things and try to see how is the correlation between the variables. Okay, and you can also use a regression technique. Okay, you can also use a regression technique where regression actually tells, okay, what is the relationship between the variables using your p-value, use a p-value score, so that you can understand which parameters are having high significance for the dependent variable. You can mention what is the independent and dependent variable. You can use the stats model API in linear regression, where it will actually help you to interpolate, okay, which parameter is highly significant for your dependent data. You can do that, Balmurugan. You can try it. Okay, or else you can go with the correlation map and heat map. That also can be done. There's one way of doing it. And we have in all our things we can do interpretation. Okay, but heat map or with respect to correlation graph and also using linear regression would help you to understand the interpretation properly. Okay. Just other Google Colab, you can look for the material. Okay, you can look for, you can just go to Google, and Google has actually prepared the video how to use the Google Colab. Google Colab is a GPU based machine what it is basically giving for free to access. For example, if you're having a data set for more than, okay, if you're having like more than, for example, 5 GB or 6 GB, and my RAM is like around 8 GB of RAM. In that case, actually I can't process so much of huge data at once. So what I do is I deploy to paste my Google images onto Google Drive. So Google Colab will help you to process it fast using the GPU technology. If you want to understand how Google Colab actually works, okay, you can really go ahead with videos done by Google. I share my mail ID, don't worry, I'll share it to Manjunath sir, where you can give my mail ID to you. Okay, any other questions, guys? Okay, Balmurugan, you can go with Python, that's not a problem. You can go with Python, actually Python would help you doing it. Okay, so in Python we have a lot of things. Okay, there's no actually specific tool to make sure which is interpretable. I mean, how to interpolate. You can just learn Python. You can apply regression models. Okay, if you are good at Microsoft Excel, you can go to analytics of Microsoft Excel so that it will tell you interpolation of the data. Okay, but going to Python, if you can go for the correlation plot, okay, and the heat map, it would help you. You can try with that. Just try what the correlation graph and how heat map helps to understand so that they can get a solution for it. Great. Anything else? Okay, great, guys. Like if you have any questions, don't worry. Like I can just share my mail ID to Manjunath sir. Okay, you can follow my YouTube channel. Okay, so you can just follow that. Okay, where I can help you in further sessions. It's not a problem. Okay, and I think we can end the sessions. Manjunath sir, if you permit me, I can just wind up the session.
Vinay sir, this is one of the coordinator. If I think there are no questions from the participant, we can wind up the session.
Okay. Great. Great, guys. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Okay. I wish to meet you guys once again to my other YouTube channel, other webinars. Okay. I wish you people all the very best. Okay. Keep learning. Become very good data scientists. We require a lot of data scientists now. Okay. I think we are having a shortage of data science engineers in the industry. Okay. It will be really helpful if you people really focus well and learn data science. Okay. Because a lot of things are still pending to do in the industry. Okay, I wish you people all the very best. Okay, thank you so much for DVIT for giving me this opportunity, for principal, commercial tester, and other, okay, the faculties and the team. Okay, and all the participants, I wish you people all the very best. Okay, have a great year ahead. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Vinay sir. Information to the participant. We will be